So in this demo, I will show you an instance that has been very handy for me in the use of AI to save a lot of time and effort in creating a sample data set. I've been training for more than a couple of decades, and oftentimes training experience would require me to have a data set ready, built, and prepared to share, not only for me to use as demonstration for the class, but then for everyone who's in the training session to be able to use and practice with. I will be doing some of this coming up actually when I start helping faculty to learn how to use our new session pacing guide. And so you see a sample of this here. Like with any kind of database work that I do, data-related work, when folks are talking about collecting data, my first two questions are always, what are the data fields that we need to capture? And then what are the data types those fields need to be? And so I usually will outline a spreadsheet and work with them to define all of those specifications first. And I've done that for myself too here. The first step is creating this template spreadsheet that you'll feed to your AI assistant to help guide it in the creation of your sample data set. First steps first, it's really important on this first row to create the data fields that you're going to need it to understand and fill in. And you want to make sure that you're either, if not both, either naming your fields very contextually, or you're going to provide that context in the narrative instruction that you give it. Another way to provide it some of that context is to create a sample row that is going to illustrate to it, give it a sample of what its resulting records should look like. And so I've done that here as well. I've already downloaded the spreadsheet to an Excel sheet. I also downloaded it as a PDF. You could feed it the PDF. It will be able to parse the data even from the PDF and recognize the data, format the data arrangement. I have prepared, I'm going to do that first, is actually drop the sample spreadsheet into ChatGPT. And then I have already prepared my prompt ahead of time in the interest of time for this session. So I'm going to copy that really quick. And I'm going to paste that here. And you don't have to have this. You don't need it. It's going to be very specific to my data set, and it should be very specific to the data set that you need. So my prompt really isn't going to do you any bit of good. Don't worry about fretting, trying to copy it, write it down. I'm not going to read it to you in full. In essence, it really is telling it that it needs to create a sample data set, that this is the data example that I'm providing it, that's giving it the fields that it needs to create. There's a sample record in it that shows it an example of what the data should look like when it's done. And then I start to give it here some context with regard to the fact that this data is related to medical courses and the activities that are part of a medical course that start to define session level activities. I want them to see a full sheet and what it would typically look like once they're finished filling it out for themselves, germane to their specific course. So I've given it this definition. The last thing I need to do is tell it to generate 50 sample records. And then I will send it on its way. This would take me all day to try to manually type this in or copy paste and then go back and make the data more varied so that it looks like an authentic example of what it is that I want them to start building for their own classes. And essentially, while it's doing this, I could be off doing something else. So we are automating the process. We are creating a certain volume of information that we need to use for a particular purpose. I am saving time by having it do that while I now can do something else. And now after thinking for several seconds, we have some results here. So it's created us a table. We can enlarge and visually inspect the table, or we can immediately download the table into a new spreadsheet with actual data in there. And of course, my GPT is always funny. So what we've learned in our last session too about validating the results that we get from ChatGPT, I will be making sure that all of this that it is saying, it actually did. Now I would simply download this, and it will download as a full spreadsheet. I'll do that now. I'll open it up so that you can see in Excel what this final result looks like. And now I can share this with my faculty trainees so that they can learn how to go about filling out this particular session pacing guide so that we can collect the data that we need for our curriculum inventory.